Hello and welcome. In this video, we are going to be talking about the spread operator in JavaScript. After this video, you should have no problem dealing with the spread operator. I am not going to be talking about how or when the spread operator appeared in the JavaScript syntax. We are just going to learn how to use it with some examples. So with that said, let's get on with the video. Since the spread operator is mostly used with arrays and objects in JavaScript, let's quickly review them. Arrays are merely collections of data. In JavaScript, the data in an array can be of the same type or of different types. Arrays in JavaScript look like this. It shouldn't be a surprise to you that arrays are used all the time in JavaScript projects. The values in an array are stored in an ordered fashion. So this makes it easier to get a value in the array from its position. Since an array is a collection, you can iterate through the values as well as perform other operations on it. Objects in JavaScript are also collections of data, but unlike arrays, the values are stored in a property and value structure, and they are surrounded by curly brackets. To get a value in the object, all you have to do is call the object name and the property of the value you want to get. Arrays and objects don't just store primitive types. They can also store complex types and other collections. The spread operator, symbolized with 3 dots, is one of the most widely used features in modern JavaScript development. So it is very important that you get as comfortable with it as possible. I want you to think about the spread operator as rewriting the elements of the collection and then returning them without the opening and closing brackets. That is why you cannot just use the spread operator on its own on an array, because it will return the array but with no enclosing brackets. That will be syntactically wrong, so you have to make sure to use it with the square brackets. So I am currently using JS Fiddle to run this quick test. So basically I've already created a simple array with very basic values. So I'm going to try to use the spread operator just out in the open like this and try to run this, but we already know it will cause an error because the compiler just would not be able to understand that. It just does not make any sense, because that would be like trying to just output the values in your array just like this. So for example, you just write down the values just like that and then you attempt to run this. This would be wrong. So since the spread operator does this as well, so this just would not make sense. So instead, to use the spread operator, this is why that is why you have to make sure that in case of like you are logging it out, you have to surround it with the square brackets, and then you can then call the spread operator on the array, and when you do this you can log it out and then it comes out as an actual array like that. So with this you can also do something extra. You can add an extra value. Since the value has already been spread out, you can add something like let's say pineapple to it, and then when you run this, it you have created a new array without modifying the previous one. Since the spread operator returns an array with no enclosing brackets like this, then it would make sense that we can use the spread out value as a function argument as well, because the syntax is already correct and makes sense. So to test out the using of a spread out array of the spread operator in a function's argument. I have already created a simple array which contains these three simple values. So I'm going to create my function. I'm going to call it add new, and then this function is going to have two arguments. One would be the array, so this would take in the spread array, and then the other argument will be the value that I want to add to the array. Okay, so then I'm just going to take the array and call the push function, which allows me to add a new value to the current array, and then just pass in the new value variable, and then return the array. Okay, now I hope you already know that this function, because of what we are trying to do, it's going to create a new array and return that one. So we create a new variable called new array, and then we call the add new function, but we remember we have to pass in the spread out array. We are not passing in the original array. And then in the next argument we call in the new value that we want to add, which is pineapple in this case. Now we just simply log the new array out to confirm our values. So let's go ahead and run it, and then let's look at the result. So we can see that pineapple has been added, and we have tested out using the spread operator in a function's argument. The spread operator can be used with objects as well as other collections we will get to later. In objects, it does the same thing as in arrays. It simply copies the original object and returns a bland, sort of unfinished object that looks like this, ready to be manipulated in the ways we choose. Okay, so I've already created a simple course object like this with an ID property with value 1 and a name property with value learning programming. So you probably think that we could spread out the course object just like this, but we already know that this would be wrong, and that would be just like writing out the ID and the name just out like that in the line of code, but that would not work. So instead you have to surround it with the curly braces, and then later you can log it or whatever you want to do with it to check the value. So we just run this, and then you can see that the object is properly structured and it's logged or outputted into the console. So that is fine. So now we want to look at one of the uses of the spread operator. So let's say we wanted to add a new value to this course object called price. So we just create a function. We call it add new property, and then we give it an argument which will be our object that we want to copy. Okay, and then next we are going to just return. We are going to return no, not with the square brackets. We are going to return the object, spread out object. Okay, like this. And then since it's already spread out, and it's, we already have ID and name have already been spread out using the spread operator, we can just, it would make sense that we could just add a comma and then add in a new value. So we could just go ahead and give it the price. It should not be in quotation, so I'm just going to change that and just call it price like that, because it's an object, so we need a property in that position. And then we just give it a price of 50, and then that should be fine. So next we're just going to simply output this out. Just going to output this out like this and call the function. Just call the function name, add new property, and then what we have to do is you have to spread out the object, but remember to put it in curly brackets. And then that is the original object we've passed into our add new function, and the function should do and return the price, a new object with the price added. So as we can see, the price has been a new price property has been added very quickly and efficiently. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. See you on the next one.